Hey crafters, Nicole here, back with another sketch starter, and this time we are going bold. We're going bold with big backgrounds and bold with color. So join me as we explore this latest sketch starter. My latest sketch starter has a new element, and it's that dotted pattern that you see in that big background piece. That indicates that I'm suggesting a pattern for that piece of the project. Do you have to follow that? Of course not. The pattern police aren't going to come out and get you. But it does add another layer of inspiration when you're getting started on your projects. These projects are also inspired by the August 2020 Inspiration Challenge over at Altenew, which I'm hosting this month. So the photo came from my mom's backyard, and the colors are pulled from the photo. So you can interpret them in a few different ways. Mountain mist, emerald, and industrial diamond are a really great choice. Now, if you prefer, you could swap out industrial diamond for grape agate, and you could swap out mountain mist for minty mint. But if you're looking to add paper, sometimes it's easiest to use what you already have. So mountain mist and emerald already come in a gradient pack, and you can use any gray for the industrial diamond. If you want to get paper that is minty mint or grape agate, here's an easy way to do it. Just grab a piece of white cardstock and take your ink pad and just go ahead and coat your paper with it nice and even. Now you'll want to set this aside and have it dry, or you can use your heat gun to dry it, because once it's dry it's going to be a significantly different color. So you can see how it is when it's still wet here, and this is a piece that I have cut down that is dry. Now if I compare that to mountain mist, I have definitely a different color. It really makes the mountain mist look blue, even though when mountain mist is on its own it looks quite green. So of course the choices are up to you. These are always just guidelines to help you get started, and you can use any similar shade that works for your project. So let's get to crafting. For my first project, here's the supplies I'm going to use. Industrial diamond ink, the Seashore gradient cardstock set, essential black and white paper pack, the Hello and Hugs stamp and die set, and the new Creative Cutouts nested wreath. To get started, I cut up one of the large wreaths, and I'm going to create some smaller bits. So it's very easy to cut these apart and create smaller little bundles of leaves. I really just need 3 sets for this one. So I'll go ahead and cut these off so that I have some really nice tops. These are actually end up being the same, but I can flip them over to make them look slightly different. And then I'll need like another little bit here, like so. And then I have a few extra pieces that I can save for another project. Now that I've got these all cut out, I'm going to take my industrial diamond ink and smush it down on a craft mat here and get it wet with some water. And then I'm going to smush my pieces into that ink and get some really nice color on them. So like I said, I flipped the one around so that way I've got one going one direction and one going the other direction. As you can see, there you go. And then of course there's this little piece. I'll get some ink on that. And then I just need to set these aside to dry. For my next step, I'll work on the sentiment element, and I'm using the Hello and Hugs stamp set and dies for this one. So I've die cut the hello in both the shadow and in the main part. And in the main part, I've done this in emerald, and then I've got the shadow done in white. Now you could do the hugs. It will work out the same for that square element in our sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble these together. And I love that you can use the shadow or not use the shadow. It really just kind of depends on what your project calls for. Sometimes I do the shadow in vellum just to help the sentiment pop, but I really wanted it to stand out this time. So I've opted for a really bright white piece in the background, and that's really going to help the hello stand out on this finished project. So the next piece that I need to do is my sentiment, and so now I need to decide if I'm going to use that minty mint piece that I did earlier or if I'm going to use the mountain mist. And I think I'll try the minty mint this time. When you look at the pictures at the end of the video, you'll see that I've done this also in mountain mist, and you'll see what that looks like. It's just slightly different. So I've got my stamp set up, and it says, "To you, my friend." So this is going to say, "Hello to you, my friend." And I've got that all set up here. And then I need to finish this off. So this is actually going to become the square element in the sketch. And the way that that works is I've got this little strip here, and the hello is going to attach right onto it. And so it indicates a square. So all I have to do now is put a few little drops on the bottom of the hello, and then get that right onto that sentiment strip. And there you go. I have a beautiful sentiment element, and that will go right onto the card. The last thing I needed to do was set up my card base. So I selected one of the bold patterns from the Black and White Essentials paper pack and got that on my card base. And now I'm ready to assemble. So I have my leaf pieces, which are completely dry. And the first one I'm going to adhere down with some adhesive. And the rest I'm going to start popping up with foam adhesives. So I'll go ahead and lay the first one down. Now with this slick paper, sometimes you need to give it just a minute to dry. So I'll just let that sit in place while I get the rest of these pieces ready to go. So the rest is going to use the double-sided foam adhesives, and I'm just going to make sure that I get enough of these guys on here to make sure they stand up. And I'm not going to put them on the left side, well, the right side I should say. So that's good. And then the same thing with the small leaves. Again, only putting them on the left side. And then my sentiment also is going to get popped up, so I will pop some of these on the back too. All right, so that's given this enough time to dry in place. And I will set up my next set of leaves. And these I'm going to kind of lay in a similar fashion, but I can actually kind of twist and move these around a little bit to make it look different. So that's pretty nice. And then I'll go ahead and add in this next set here. And I want these to kind of maybe branch off of the first ones, like so. So now I have a nice little grouping of leaves, and that indicates that vertical line that we have going on in the sketch. And now I can add in my square element, which is my finished sentiment. And since I didn't put any foam adhesives on this side, the sentiment will lay really, really nice. And there we go, the first interpretation of our latest sketch. For our second take, here's the supplies that I'm going to use: Obsidian Black Pigment Ink, Seashore Gradient cardstock, the Wild Flora stamp and die set, and the new Creative Cutouts Moroccan Mosaic. For my first step on this one, I'm going to take care of the stamping and die cutting. So I've got a whole bunch of sentiments from the Wild Flora stamp set up. So it will say, "Thank you for all you do for brightening my world, for being so awesome." And I have them set up in my MISTI here. And I've decided on the size of cardstock that I need. This is 2 inch by 2 inch. So I'm using my creative corners to get my piece of cardstock in just the right place. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that up and stamp the sentiment. And now that I have the sentiment done, I'm going to go ahead and add in some little details. So I've got a journaling pen here, and I'm just going to make a little border around this. And the lines don't have to meet, and they can overlap. It just needs to look kind of hand done, because it is. And then I want to put a little separator in between the thank you and the rest. So I'm just going to create a little dot and put a line on either side of it. And that makes for a cute little sentiment. For the second piece of stamping, I'm going to do up the double floral image. And I want to make sure that all of these little pieces are in just the right place for my die. Now I know that sometimes it's difficult to match them up, but here's a way that you can do that. If you match up your stamp inside the die, you'll notice that it fits in there pretty well. So if I put my die down and get my stamp set up inside of it, then I can grab it with the lid of my stamp positioner, and it should be in pretty close position to my die. So now I can just take the die out, do my stamping, and then when I go to put my die over the image, it's going to be in just the right place for me to cut it out. All right, I have all of my pieces ready to go, and I'm working on getting some adhesive on this mosaic die cut. Now I want to make sure that I have adhesive on all of the edges because I don't want those to lift up off of the card and get snagged on something. The center will basically take care of itself because it's going to be covered with other elements. So I have a card base set up with dark gray cardstock, and I'm going to add my mosaic element on top of that. So this gets me that beautiful pattern background that is suggested by the sketch. All right, so now that that is in place, I can go ahead and start working on that vertical stripe, and this time I've got a piece of the emerald cardstock, and I'm going to place that down the center, just like so. And then I have my last two elements, so I need to do just a little bit of trimming. And I did have a little bit of overhang with the mosaic elements, so I'll trim those off now. And then just a few down the side here. There we go. So now that's ready to go, and I can add in my final elements. So I thought that I would add in those floral bits there, and then add in our square, and kind of interlace them together by allowing this leaf to come over the front. So I'll add just a little bit of adhesive on the back of the sentiment so that I can stick it to my flower and know exactly where that's going to go. And now I basically have one element, and I'm going to put actually just a little bit of glue behind this one here, just to keep it in place until I get everything put down. All right, so it's going to go just like that, and I'm going to pop it up. So I'll add on some adhesive squares, and this is a great opportunity to put the adhesive square over both elements, so that way you've got some extra sticking power. And a few little ones for the stem. And that should be good. So as you can see, these projects, though they look pretty involved and really end up striking, they aren't too difficult to put together. They're really just a few steps, and using the sketch and the color challenge really helps out in getting the inspiration flowing. All right, so I just want to make sure that this little square element overlaps our piece here and that it's square across the bottom. And then I can just snip off the rest of the flower. There you go. 2 takes on a new sketch and a little Kickstarter for this month's inspiration challenge over at altenew.com. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. If today's projects inspired you, don't forget to hashtag them Altenew Sketch Starters and tag us at Pixel Mavens Retreat and at Altenew LLC. We'd love to see what you're working on. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and I'll be back with another sketch soon. But until then, happy crafting.
Hello crafters, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching!